Hey everybody, Mike Iaconelli here. Welcome to a brand new In the Shop, and we've got a great one for you today. And in today's shop, we're going to be talking about my top 4 July baits. My top 4 bass baits for fishing in the month of July. All right, let me give you some context here. July means hot. I don't care where you're at. July is the thick of the summer. Generally in the summer, fish are going to be in one of 3 patterns: deeper, thicker, or in current. But that deeper one really starts to shine in July. Now keep in mind, deep is a relative term. If you're in California, fishing a reservoir, deep could be 150 feet. But if you're down south, if you're in Florida, deep could be 10 feet, right? So deep is relative. But in the month of July, because it's getting warm, the water temperature is warmer, the air temperature is warmer, the days are longer. Because of those things, fish start to move deep. They're moving deep because of oxygen content. They're moving deep because of cooler water. But the number one reason July bass are moving deeper is their food is moving deeper. So we're going to break down my top 4 July lures. And if you followed this series, you know how we do it. We're going to give you 2 for up north, north of Virginia, the Midwest north. We're going to give you 2 for the northern part of the country. And then we're going to give you 2 for the southern part of the country. Let's say Virginia South, the Carolinas, Texas, Louisiana, all places like that. We're going to give you 2 for down there as well. Okay, let's start with my number 1 bait for July anywhere, but especially up north. You probably know what I'm going to say, guys. And it is a drop shot. Without a doubt, this bait in the month of July has been one of the best techniques, lures, presentations I've ever thrown. The first thing is, remember what I said about fish getting deep or deeper. What a great lure to be able to fish in those deeper zones. Even in, shallower places where deep is 8 or 10 feet, this lure gets down, stays down. In places that have extremely deep water, 20, 30, 40, 50 feet, this lure gets down and stays down. And it does a great job of mimicking natural forage, okay? A drop shot, when you think about it, it's a weight on the bottom with the bait that stays above it. It sits horizontal and it just twitches, right? In the middle, sort of up off the bottom in the water column. Just hovers and twitches. That's super realistic. That's so real. And I don't care if you're mimicking shad, herring, minnows, gobies, alewife, whatever, little bluegill, dace. That thing hovering above the bottom does a great job of imitating that. I got to tell you, one of my favorites has become this one right here. And not just for smallmouth, but for largemouth, spotted bass. This is the Max Scent Flatworm. I love, love, love this thing. It's available in a couple sizes. There's a real small size. I think it's a 3.5. And then we've got this 4.25 flatworm, which has really become almost my new standard because it's small, but it's a little bit bigger presentation that I think largemouth and spots respond better to, okay? So flatworm. When I'm fishing this thing in July, here's my rule of thumb on hooks. Whenever I can get away with an exposed hook, that's the way I like to fish it. So what I mean by that is sparse cover, open water, gravel bottoms, right? Places where there's not a lot of heavy cover, I like to nose hook it. And I'm using a split shot, drop shot style hook by VMC. either a shore set or the brand new red line, phenomenal. And I'm just taking that flatworm and I'm going about 1/8 of an inch into the bait and nose hooking it, okay? Nose hooking it. The one thing to keep in mind when we're rigging it is to make sure that flat bottom of that flatworm is always facing down, right? We want that down, catching water to help it undulate, okay? No cover, sparse cover, drop shot hook. But the drop shot is just as effective in July when you're around cover. A lot of these lakes up north, grass, the glacial lakes. You get on grass lines that are 8, 10, 12 feet deep. Hydrilla, milfoil, coontail, cabbage. In that case, all I do is switch hooks, and I go to a Finesse Nico style hook. And I'll show you this thing. If you're not familiar with the Finesse Nico, it's the same Nico hook that you fish with the wacky rig, but the Finesse Nico has just a little plastic keeper barb. So I take the same bait, same weight, same drop shot setup, but I just Texas rig it. Go in about 1/8 of an inch, pull it out, do your normal Texas rig. That little keeper barb's going to hold it on there, and you have that same drop shot now with a weedless, snagless presentation. A 1/0 or a 2/0 is perfect on that 4.25, okay? So drop shot, exposed hook for sparse cover, Texas rig with that Nico Finesse for cover. And then real quick before I get on to the next one, leader length. And your down leader length from your hook to your weight, general rules right here for you on how to select that leader length. The cleaner the water, the longer that leader. That's when I normally go to a 14 to 18 inch leader. Clearer the water, the longer the leader. The dirtier the water, the shorter the leader. When that water gets stained or dirty, I just shorten up my down leader. I'll go to a 6, 8 inch, 10 inch max leader instead of that longer one, okay? So cleaner water, longer leader, dirtier water, shorter leader. Hopefully that'll help you pick out your leader length a little bit. So number one bait, month of July, especially up north, but anywhere, the drop shot. All right. Number 2, and this one really, when we're talking about the north part of the country in the month of July, is a sleeper. You've heard people talking about it, and here it goes. The Ned Rig. The Ned Rig, which is essentially sort of just a blunt worm, no action, little stubby worm with a mushroom-style jig head. Couple key things I want you to know on this bait. The one is the jig head. Man, a lot of different Ned Rig jig heads out there. Just pick one that has a 90-degree line tie, okay? This is the VMC Ned Rig jig, but you want that line tie on the jig head to be straight up and down this way, 90 degrees, because that is going to help that bait stay horizontal on the bottom, okay? We want that just creeping along the bottom, staying very straight and horizontal. And even on the fall, this is going to help this bait sort of get a little spiraling motion. And you're going to get some bites on the fall as well. But 90-degree line tie, I really like the lighter Ned Rig heads from a 1/16 of an ounce all the way up to a 1/4 at the very max. But this is another bait that can help you get down to the bottom and stay down there, right? Fish that are moving deeper in the summer, July is summer, this is perfect. Any stubby little worm will work, okay? So listen, if you've already got 5-inch stick baits, this is the Berkley Power Bait General, take that thing, bite it in half, you have a Ned Rig bait, okay? So any straight-tailed, stubby-style worm will work. But, once again, that max scent, man, is special. And scent helps in these presentations. Drop shot, Ned Rig, where the fish are inspecting the lure. That scent is going to help you, okay? This is the Little General. This is almost a 3-inch bait, just a hair under 3 inches. And I basically just thread it on that Ned head. I just thread it on there. On a cast, here's the deal, guys. The Ned Rig is so easy to fish. It's so easy that I think people can mess it up. So on a cast, I always let it fall on a semi-slack line. When I do that, as it falls, it's spiraling, and I'm watching that line, and if I see the line jump or move or tick, I set the hook. 20-25% of the time, you'll get bit on the fall. But that's a lot, okay? But the main deal with this Ned head in July, and the reason it's so effective, is it's so non-threatening. The lack of action makes it an easy meal. And in July, when it's hot and those fish are moving deeper, they want an easy meal. So once it hits the bottom, I'm basically going to slow drag it with my rod from 3 to 12. And as I pull that bait slowly, I want to feel the bottom as I'm dragging. You've heard the term counting rocks or counting pebbles. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to feel the rocks, the bottom, as I'm dragging. And the minute that I'm dragging and it's coming along the bottom, the minute I feel it hit something substantial, it's dragging smooth, all of a sudden I feel it hits something. It's hit a bigger rock. It's hit a stick. It's hit a sprig of grass. The minute I hit something, I stop. I stop and I let the bait do nothing. Let it sit. A lot of these baits, some of the other brands even are floating. They'll float up a little. That tail will kind of just sway in the current. It hardly moves. And that is the strength of this Ned head rig, okay? So drag until you hit something. When you hit something, stop. Count to 3, count to 5, count to 10. Just let it sit for a second. If you don't get a bite, continue to 12. Reel on your slack and start again. Drag that thing along the bottom. Looks like an easy meal. In the month of July, they love the Ned rig, especially up north. Okay, we're going to keep going. Now we're going to go to number 3 bait for the month of July. Now we're going to start talking a little bit more about these southern fisheries. A lot of the river run reservoirs, the Tennessee River comes to mind, the Coosa River, places like that. But even reservoirs, if you're down south, Lake Lanier, Toledo Bend, Fork, right? Reservoirs. These are going to be some great baits. Remember, month of July, one of the patterns, fish moving deeper. Both these lures are going to be able to target these deeper fish. All right, number 3, especially down south. Guys, this is swim bait season. July is swim bait season. And specifically, I'm talking about a Jig Head style swim bait, okay? I really like the boot tail style swim baits. My 2 favorite for sure are a Berkley hollow belly and just a power swimmer. And really, guys, love that power swimmer. I generally go with a bigger Jig Head. This is a VMC hybrid swim bait Jig Head. I like the 3/8. I like the 1/2 ounce. One of the cool things about this Jig Head is it's got a little screw lock. So you actually can screw the bait on there, and that helps it from, it's not going to slide like it does on a lot of other Jig Heads. So heavier ball head, heavier Jig Head. In the swim bait, whether it's the hollow belly or a power swimmer, I like the little bit bigger ones, okay? 3/8, 4/3, and 5-inch hollow belly are my favorite sizes, right? So 3 3/4, almost 4-inch up to 5-inch, does a perfect job of imitating a lot of the forage that we're going to be fishing in that deeper zone. Now, in those southern reservoirs, on those southern river run lakes, I'm fishing this out on the ledges, out on the main points, 10 to 12 foot to 20 to 25. That's that range I'm looking for. 14 feet, 16, 18, key zones. And because that's a 3/8 and a half, I can really get it down there. The great thing about these swim baits, especially fishing on the jig heads, the bait does a lot itself. And I'm basically just slow rolling these baits, letting them maintain some bottom contact by pausing every once in a while, and then just slow reeling them. You know, the hollow belly, but especially this power swimmer, has a dual action. And when that water's hot in the month of July, they really key on that. So, you know, if you look at it, as you reel it, you're going to see this body actually rolls. This body rolls from left to right. But because both these lures have those boot tails, that tail is going to wag as well, right? So the swim baits on a jig head in the month of July, as you slow reel them, the body's rolling and the tail's wagging left and right. And that's really, really irresistible to those fish that in the month of July are deeper, they want an easy meal, but they have to feed a lot. As the water gets warmer, their metabolism gets jacked up. So that looks like a big easy shad, a big easy shiner, a big easy gizzard, herring, whatever. It's a big easy meal, and that's why it's number 3 on my top lures for July. All right, last but not least, in the month of July, the reason I put this one on here is I cannot think of a time of the year where this technique is better than July. And when I look at some of the biggest, deeper main lake ledge fish that I've caught in my life, they've come in July and they've come on this lure. And it is a Flutter Spoon. A Flutter Spoon. Now, this is a lure that for sure gets a lot of talk and play in the South, but hardly ever in the North. But real quick, from guys watching that live in the North, this is a sleeper up in this part of the country too. And what a Flutter Spoon does when those fish get deeper in July is it does a great job of imitating dying forage, right? Something that's on its way out and it's struggling, it's dying. If you've ever looked in the water and you've seen a shad, a threadfin, a herring, even a bluegill on their last leg, they don't just go and sink to the bottom. It's not like a cartoon. They struggle, right? They're on their last leg. And if you've ever seen it, they sort of, as they're dying, they're wandering down. They have a little movement, but they're struggling and they're dying. This Flutter Spoon hits that movement to a T, guys. Perfect for the deeper water, perfect for July. And this is that Molex Lover Spoon. The two sizes that I really like, I like a 3/4 ounce when I'm, let's say, 0 to about 15 or 18 feet. I like that 3/4 ounce, gets down quick, but has a lot of nice movement on the fall. When I get deeper than 18 or 20 feet, when I'm fishing that 25 or 30, I like that big 1 ounce, that big giant Flutter Spoon. But let me show you the construction of it, and then I'm going to talk about how to fish it, why it's so effective. So the Molex one, you've got a line tie. If you look at most of these Flutter Spoons, they're heavily cupped. They've got a very deep cup on them. And that's what's going to give us this action that we're going to talk about in a second. On the Molex, it's got 2 features that most other Flutter Spoons don't have. The one is, look right there at the belly. It's got a built-in stinger, and that stinger stays tight to the body with a magnet. Very, very cool tricked out spoon. So you're going to catch a lot of those short strikers. A lot of them will headbutt it. A lot of them will flash at it. That's going to help you. The other thing with the Molex, if you look at it, most of these Flutter Spoons just have a cup, a uniform cup. Well, the Molex has the back 2 corners are fluted. And what that means is a fluted corner, instead of just being cupped, it's turned out. It's got a flute to it on each side. And those 2 fluted corners are going to let this bait swim as you reel it. So most flutter spoons are only really good on the fall. This one's good on the fall and as you reel it. And a few of these fish are going to catch. You go to reel it back in, or you reel it and kill it, and it's fluttering because it's fluted, you catch some extra fish. All right, let's get to it. The flutter spoon is at its best when it's falling. So we're going to be fishing this in those deep water zones. Said it before, I'll say it again. Main lake points, ledges, high spots, humps, places on the ledges where there's turns, a bend, outside bend, an inside bend. That's where the shell and the hard spots are going to be, right? Anywhere it breaks the monotony of a straight ledge, little point, a little indent, that's the places I'm targeting. And when I cast this bait out past those targets, I'm letting it fall on a semi-slack line. I never want to let this fall on a total slack line because then I lose contact of what the bait's doing. I never want to let it fall on a tight line because it pendulums back. But when I let it fall on a semi-slack line, this bait, I'm not kidding you guys, and you can see your line jumping as it falls. It goes, whoop, 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 whoop. And as it falls, you're watching your semi-slack line. Feed it line, keep a slight bow in your line, and you're watching that line. Doom, 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 doom. If anything changes as that spoon is falling down, if you see your line jump or tighten up or stop when it shouldn't stop, set the hook because one has gotten it on the fall. Now, once that flutter spoon hits the bottom, I'm watching the line, semi-slack line, boom, boom, boom. See the line ticking, ticking, ticking. Hits the bottom, the line bellows out. It's not a bite, the line just hit the bottom. Then I want to make this thing lift and fall as many times as I can in that strike zone. The great thing about the flutter spoon is that when you hit it to make it rise again, it doesn't really rise away from the spot. It rises up and then falls back down. So fishing that flutter spoon, once it hits the bottom, I'm taking my rod from 3 and I'm ripping it up to 12 and then following the slack back down with my line semi-slack, okay? So hits the bottom, it's going to be vroom, following it back down, hits the bottom. Vroom, following it back down, hits the bottom. About every third or fourth rip, I actually like to throw 2 pumps into it to change the movement of the bait, right? So, vroom, vroom, follow it back down. Vroom, follow it back down. And so that bait, like stroking a jig, it's going to rapidly rise off the bottom, stay in the strike zone, and flutter back down, okay? Great technique for the month of July, especially in deeper water down south. By the way, real quick on colors of that bait, I stick to real basic, guys. I like the chrome or the silver, and I really, really like the chrome or a silver on brighter days, sunny days. When it's cloudy or low light, I use the painted, and it's painted white. It's actually, this is a shad pattern. This is color 71. I don't even know the color. Let's see, Charming Shad is what it's called. So painted, low light, silver, bright days, sunny days, easy color selection. All right, I hope you enjoyed this one, man. July, it's getting hot, but the fishing can still stay hot. Dropshot, Ned Rig up north, swim bait, flutter spoon down south. Try one of those 4 lures, and you might have the best fishing trip of the year in the month of July. Man, if you like what you're hearing, do me a favor, stop real quick. I know you're busy, but stop and hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to my channel. We have new content coming every single week. If you're already subscribed, do me a favor. Text your buddy. Call your buddy. You see your guy, your friends at work. You see your friends at your club meeting. Tell them about Mike Iaconelli Fishing YouTube. We're here to help you hopefully become a better angler and learn some new stuff. So there you have it. Month of July. Try those 4. You're going to catch a lot of fish. Bye. Hey everybody, Mike Iaconelli. I hope you enjoyed this week's In the Shop. I hope you learned a little bit. And if you like these videos, remember, there's a whole boatload. Check out these two, and you're going to learn more about bass fishing.